This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the latest, the freshest edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I'm your host, Vito Chirco, alongside my usual sidekick and partner in crime, that is the Doc from Doc and Jack, John Charles Macaroon. John, how's it going?
John.
What up, Vito? I'm excited. Always look forward to recording podcasts with you. My apologies. My energy level is not where it usually is, but I've been doing so much with the practice, with the podcast, signing up new sponsors, checking up on you and your marketing endeavors. So excuse me for my, different level of energy today, but I'm definitely looking forward to hearing what we're going to talk about regarding the Tigers. Always a great time when Dom's in studio. So we already had great laughs before we even started recording.
Mi hermano, Dom Chirco, is in the studio today with us. Dominic, thanks for joining us.
Yep. What's up, guys? Rumor mill's heating up for a lot of teams right now, including the Tigers, and we'll get into that.
But first and foremost, Dom, you've got to be excited about a deal that was made involving your Chicago White Sox, trading Jose Quintana, a young lefty, still young, 28-year-old lefty, who had good, not great numbers in the first half, but FIP-wise, good enough, and actually dealing him to the crosstown rival Chicago Cubs. Quite the trade for both sides. I think a win-win move. And Quintana already in his debut with the Cubbies, 12 Ks against the Orioles on Sunday, looking sharp so far. And already based on his FIP, he's the best starting pitcher on the Cubs. Second best. Lester is considered the number one. But you can say that Quintana, based on what he's done this season so far, is the number one on that staff already, Dom.
Yeah, right now, what the Cubs can do is they can hide underperforming underachievers and John Lackey. They can hide them out back end of the rotation. They're going to get Kyle Hendricks back. You're going to get Mike Montgomery. You can now move him to the bullpen where he was really good in the long relief role last year in the playoffs. He came in a couple of games. Quintana is definitely going to give you innings for the most part. He had struggled early in the season giving up the long ball. Home runs were up, but that's usually not his game. A lot of it, Don Cooper, White Sox pitching coach, said he was leaving the ball up. He was trying to blow hitters away with his fastball. He wasn't really pitching. He dealt with some pressure, knowing that he would be on the trade market as he was in the offseason. And now this is like a brain release for him. Getting that start out of the way with the new ball club, getting 12 strikeouts. So, yeah.
Now, Dom, how excited were you when you heard the news? Where were you? And when everyone looked at the trade and they started to evaluate it, the first thing they said was, my goodness. First of all, the teams in Chicago trading with each other, and then the haul that the White Sox were able to receive from the Cubs made a lot of Tigers fans, including myself, super jealous because we're sitting here, and if you remember, on Monday, everybody really got their panties in a bunch and got super excited at the notion that maybe J.D. Martinez got traded for Robles from the National. I was tweeting, I was texting Vito, and I was getting super excited. I'm like, oh my God, they did it, finally. And everyone got excited because it was a top 10 prospect, a top 5 overall in Major League Baseball, a top prospect in the Nationals organization. So we're all sitting here as Tigers fans, sitting on pins and needles because we want to pull off deals similar to what the White Sox were able to do. So I'm pretty sure you're pretty excited as to the news.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I think I was right with you when it happened. Yep. And I called Dad right away.
He had to call my dad, rub it into him and to me.
Look what we got for.
Well, the thing is, too, Dom, not to cut you off, but the White Sox farm system is just so much better off than the Tigers farm system. The Tigers farm system needs to be replenished. We thought JD was gone. We think he can bring in a huge haul. He really has to. He's the biggest trade piece. But now the thing is, we heard Alex Avila on Monday say the Tigers aren't necessarily going to make moves. If the good moves aren't out there to get or to be had, he's not going to just make a move for the sake of making a move, which I kind of like, but it's still depressing to some of us Tigers fans. And I think, Doc, you expressed that on Twitter through the @Detroit Podcast Twitter handle on Monday as well, saying that these Tigers fans, I think, would despise that if the Tigers stood pat, is what I'm trying to say. Right, Doc?
That's not an option. I mean, when you look at what the team needs, at a bare minimum, the Tigers got to trade Alex Avila, free agent at the end of the year, JD Martinez, free agent at the end of the year, and Justin Wilson, a closer that should demand quite a bit in terms of the fact that he's a young, talented closer now coming into his own for the next couple seasons, should be successful. So it was crazy when it happened, because I could tell you my visceral reaction when, JD was taken out of the game, and then at the same time, I mean, how crazy is that? At the exact similar time, Robles is taken out of a minor league game, and you're like, oh, it's done. We got a good piece. And I think Tigers fans were starving for a little bit of accolades for a general manager, because we don't believe it. As we sit here today, I'm sitting here getting perked up a little bit, feeling a little bit better, but I'm nervous and I'm frustrated because I'm like everybody else. I don't have confidence in Avila that he's going to go out there and make moves in the Tigers' favor. Because of the fact that he's youthful as a general manager, and because of the fact we saw Dave Dombrowski and the shrewd moves he was able to make, many people think that when the trade time comes, that Avila is going to be bent over the table and taking it. And you know what I mean? Because he's not an experienced general manager, and you could obviously tell by the first wave of moves that he did not make at the start of the year last offseason. So as I sit here, I'm in a mode of Avila show me, because at this point in time, I don't have confidence that we're going to be excited like Dom was when Quintana got traded, because the haul that they got was unbelievable. You said it. The minor league system for the White Sox was already good. They just added to it.
Yeah.
Come on now.
They have two guys in the top five in baseball America. Eloy Jimenez now, who they just got, and Yohan Moncada, who's 1 and 5 right there. And the other guy they got too. They added another pitcher in Dylan Cease. He has a great curveball, they say. He's another hard-throwing righty. He'll be in the system. And the interesting tidbit from that trade is Myrtle Beach, the Cubs single-A high-advanced affiliate, was playing the White Sox, Winston-Salem, and all they did was switch dugouts after the game because they were realizing that they got traded. So that was neat. But, back to the White Sox, the beauty of what their rebuild and what started with it is that they have so many prospects. So if they can come in now, not all these guys have to pan out. Obviously, you'd like to see it, and more than likely they're not going to, but you would like to see it. That's what's great about what the White Sox are doing. They have the last guy that they just got, Zach Birdie just got hurt, who was number 10 in their system, but the 9 other guys ahead of them, they're all in the top 100 in MLB.com's rankings. It's something, and we'll see. I'm really ecstatic right now. I think in a couple of years, 2-3 years. And people are already saying on Twitter, 2019 or 2020 ALCS, Yankees, White Sox, maybe.
And World Series, crosstown World Series, Cubbies, White Sox.
Yeah.
And largely because of Rick Hahn. He's the master. He's the man right now, the maestro on the South Side, maybe the savior of the South Side of Chicago's Major League Baseball franchise. With all the moves he's pulling off, and Tigers fans, as Doc said, are jealous, more and more jealous, and they're looking at Avila with question marks, a lot of question marks. Can he pull off enough satisfactory moves to put the Tigers into contention in the future? Dom, as a relative outsider for you, what do you think about Avila's chances of getting the Tigers righted for the future specifically?
Well, it would start. The problem with the Tigers is they're going to be strapped financially because of a contract like Cabrera.
Oh my God, no way.
A contract like Verlander, if they can't find a trade partner there, which it'll be tough right now. But they gotta start with trading JD, impending free agents, and JD and Alex Avila. And once they get there, they can get some modest returns. And then get it started right there. I think the issue, like I said before, is the big contracts and actually moving those guys for high-end prospects. The White Sox were lucky enough where they had guys, had starter in Chris Sale, had starter in Jose Quintana, that were both cost-controllable going forward. Quintana's 3 years more control. This is a really good trade for the Cubs, too. People don't realize it. He's young, too. He's under 30. He's 26 years old. You have him for 3 years. You're paying him $8.5 million each season for 3 more years. So yeah, this is something where the White Sox were fortunate that the contracts that Hahn made early enough, and he's done it with Tim Anderson in the offseason. They're really good contracts, really high value contracts. And if you look at Spot Rack, the lowest value contract, the lowest value players right now, 2 of them are Tigers, Victor Martinez and Miguel Cabrera. Those are, in Pujols is last, but you can see where that that might be an issue going forward.
And you said you want to see Quintana actually succeed in a Cubbies uniform.
Yeah, I want him to pitch well. If he pitches well, he's probably going to make the Cubs better, make them win, get into the playoffs. So we'll see. Another thing about the Tigers don't have to rush things either. They're going to have more than likely a top 5 pick if they if they continue on this losing malady here.
But now they won 3 in a row. Watch out, the Tigers are coming. They might pull off a 10-game win streak and get right back into contention.
Yeah, they got to bring up.
I'm being sarcastic, by the way, too. I don't believe in that happening, but Dom, anyways.
You got to bring guys up or you got to start. Buck Farmer, you bring him up. You got to get rid of JD. You got to get rid of Alex Avila. And a top 5 pick. If you have a good draft here, they got Vito from University of Florida. It's going to be longer because of their situation. But look what the Yankees done. CC Sabathia, 37 years old. And people think, we can give up Verlander, but you can still win. You can still get something out of nothing. Obviously, it helped that they had Aroldis Chapman, the Yankees, last year. But it's still possible where you can have Verlander and finish him out the rest of the years with the Tigers and still have... Michael Fulmer's already your ace. So Verlander can play, a lesser role. You're paying him more. But you got to remember, prospects aren't paid handsomely yet. So it's something that they can finagle with if they have to.
Regarding Verlander, too, the Cubs seem to be interested in him. Now, that eliminates a suitor for JV. Do you see him getting traded before the non-waiver trade deadline? And actually, I already know what Dom thinks, but you tell the masses now here on this podcast.
I don't see it. His velocity's up. It's the highest it's been since 2011, his MVP season. But he's got other peripherals that are just much to be desired.
Are garbage.
They're really
right?
garbage. His walks are up. He's striking guy. He's not really finishing. He's not getting length in his innings, length in games this year. Like last start against the Blue Jays, he left with 115 plus pitches, made it 5 1/3 innings only. Like I said, his walks per 9 are up, and he's just not getting it done. Obviously, the age is definitely a concern. The team that gets him has to realize that, he might not be your ace, and you're paying him more than you're going to pay maybe your ace on your team already. And you take that risk. Would you take that risk? I doubt it if you're a team. I think even if they take most of his contract, you got to remember his contract is backloaded. So he's getting paid $21 million this season, but the next 3 seasons he's getting paid $28 million. So even if they trim $7 million, he's getting paid the same as much. He'll getting the paid same as he is this year for the next 3 seasons. But again, there is something to Verlander.
Yeah, it's that postseason appeal, right? Outside of the World Series and the All-Star game, if he's not pitching in the All-Star game or the World Series, he's been pretty darn good in the postseason in his career.
Well, against Oakland especially.
And against a team that really can't hit, even when they've been good in the playoffs.
When they've been good in the playoffs, yes.
So Verlander has some sexiness still. Some appeal, you're right.
Some appeal.
Some curb appeal, right? Curbside appeal, he does. Fulmer has the most. He's the sexiest commodity if they were to deal him. Would they seriously entertain dealing Michael Fulmer, though, in your opinion, Dominic?
To me, the trade that was talked about and thrown around was Michael Fulmer for Ian Happ and Javier Baez. The problem with that is, if you're going to trade Fulmer, you got to get another pitcher back, and a pitcher that's probably in the majors that has some service time under his legs. That's pitched well. Even someone like Chris. It's got to be someone like Chris Archer you would get back for Verlander. You can't.
Or for Fulmer, right?
Yeah, for Fulmer. So you can't go into it and think, well, we're going to trade Fulmer. He was going to be our ace, and all of a sudden we trade Fulmer, and then it'll appear like you're changing direction if you're not going for more pitch. If you're going for hitting, replacing Fulmer, because Fulmer really, you look at that trade last year, and in the trade with the Blue Jays and the Mets 2 years ago, people thought Daniel Norris was the guy going forward for the Tigers. He thought they were going to be their ace. What we've seen it's been Fulmer. So that means if you trade for hitters, do you trust Norris going forward to be your ace?
I like him. I think he's sexy. I'm going to use that word a lot. I know it's kind of weird at times for people to hear that. Our mom was saying sexy, a sexy commodity. I kept using that about JD, Michael Fulmer, those kind of guys. They are sexy commodities. But who's going to replace them? Specifically, who's going to replace Michael Fulmer in that rotation? Because he's been the ace. You're right.
I'm saying Norris has been...
He'd be the guy I think that they would have to think could, though. It'd be taking a big risk. But I think, this is how I think about the Tigers come 2019. You could have it set up your rotation as Michael Fulmer, Norris, Vito, and Verlander as your number 4 in his last year potentially in a Tigers uni. That's not a bad 1 through 4 if you never deal Verlander, which is why you don't have to deal Verlander, like we've been saying. And I don't think it'd be that big of a PR nightmare if they didn't deal him. And even if they did now, because at first I thought, well, guys, if they were to deal Justin Verlander, a lifelong Tiger, a guy that's won the Cy Young, MVP in 2011, they would have dealt with a lot of backlash. Avila would have. I don't think so anymore with dealing Justin Verlander. Now, dealing Michael Fulmer, that'd be a PR nightmare. And that's the thing, Doc. I mean, what do you think about Avila in the front office having to deal with all that PR backlash if they were to deal Michael Fulmer?
It's debatable. I think more and more people are realizing, okay, look, the question doesn't lie, in that we don't hate Michael Fulmer. No, we know if he's here, he's going to be productive. Okay, the question lies in, and the notion is, can Michael Fulmer, jumpstart a rebuild by getting 2 or 3 players that could help you down the line? That's the notion. And I know it's tough because I think many people are not confident that Avila can go out there, scour the landscape, and bring in 3 guys that are going to contribute. Okay? Because you got to remember, when Michael Fulmer was brought in, that was a haul of Boyd, Norris, and Fulmer. And Boyd and Norris have struggled, and most people thought that Fulmer was the prospect was going to take a little bit more time. They thought Norris was graded higher, and likely Norris and Boyd would be the contributors faster. It turned out Michael Fulmer was the superstar and a guy that's Cy Young caliber. So these prospects have a lot of people scared because they see already what Fulmer does, and people are scared. They don't want to let go of a commodity. The question lies, though, if you do trade him, I wouldn't be opposed to it as long as you got back what you felt was going to be at least 2 or 3 contributors and you're not just giving them away. I wouldn't be offended because you got to realize everyone's talked about it. Greg Henson, former radio personality, sat here 2 years ago in 2015 and he said, "Are you ready for the roller coaster with the Tigers?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "They're going to be bad for a long time," because everybody knew the salaries that were being paid were not going to be sustained, and the veterans were going to get older, and now you realize, oh boy, here we are, we're on the verge of some bad baseball. So many people are, at least it is a debatable point, and it is polarizing to ask the question about whether or not to trade Fulmer, but it would really depend on who we got back and the level. It's basically how it was spun. If it was spun that the other team won the trade, people would be pissed. Because
you got to win the trade.
You got to win the trade. And many people don't have the confidence right now because we haven't seen Avila do anything of substance yet. All we've seen him do is dole out contracts to guys that are really kind of hindering the team. That's the problem.
You've got to argue, too, that Fulmer's been as good, if not better. I think better than last year as a sophomore when people thought, like yourself, Dom, not to bring you up, but you thought he might endure through a sophomore regression. He hasn't as of yet. His FIP is better than last year. His ERA is exactly the same as last season, 3.06. Fulmer's getting it done. He's dealing, and he's the legit ace. And there would be a lot of backlash if they were to deal him down.
The difference, they would get more. The thing is, people don't realize you're going to get more for him than you would Quintana. You're going to get major league ready guys.
For Fulmer, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going to get guys that are already, like I said, someone like Chris Archer. If you find a trade partner in the Rays, obviously they're succeeding this year, but I'm saying someone like Chris Archer.
You could get Chris Archer, though?
You could get someone like
if
Chris
the Rays
Archer.
weren't competitive this year. If they were like last year.
Correct.
You could get Chris Archer, really.
You might be able to get Chris Archer.
Well, Doc, what do you think? You know Chris Archer of the Rays, ace, strikeout artist. What would you think of that? If you knew you could get that in return for Michael Fulmer.
And here's what I wanted to ask you to get your sense of it, because, I'm a fan. I'm jumpy. So I'm not, as you've said many times on the podcast, I don't tend to be rational a lot of the times. That's what makes the project fun, is I can just be a fan and let it spew. But you're the voice of reason, Dom, voice of reason. Many people are saying, look, guys, relax. Avila hasn't made moves. Yes, we've seen moves like Quintana. Yes, we've seen other teams make moves, but chill out. Hold on, relax, because Avila, what he's trying to do is set the margins, because we all hear like other GMs, and they negotiate through the media pretty well. I don't know if you saw that. Some GMs have sprinkled out that, the Tigers might have to bring down some of their asking price to get these guys moved. Okay, it's a little bit of gamesmanship going on in that the Tigers have a want. They have a kind of a list of what they are going to ask for, and it should be high. Okay, so the more time passes, the more I start to realize, okay, I don't think Avila is incompetent. I think that he's trying to maximize what he can get, and the opponents, the other GMs, are trying to fleece him. So you got to find that healthy balance of this is what we want versus this is what's being offered. And you got to remember, guys like JV, guys like Ian Kinsler, Alex Avila are going to bring okay talent, but you're not going to get a Robles for Alex Avila.
No, you're not going to.
So that's why people are saying you got to trade the likes of a Fulmer because that's an asset.
Yeah.
That's an asset that might get you a higher level of return. So that's why I'm okay with it, because I really do believe the moves are going to happen around July 31st. He's trying to maximize, what the return is going to be, and he's going to try to get a couple teams to pit against each other so that they can up the asking price. I think this is simple negotiation, and I think a lot of fans in their impatience are thinking Avila is incompetent and isn't going to make quality moves. So it's a wait-and-see approach. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on, do you think it is gamesmanship? Is it just negotiation? Or do you really start to question, are trades really going to happen?
Now, I think you have to wait out until the very end to get the best haul possible. And I think if you didn't have JD Martinez, who's well-equipped to deal because he is an expiring contract, a guy that has an OPS above 1,000 right now, I think if you didn't have him readily available to deal coming close to that non-waiver trade deadline, you would strongly consider more to deal Michael Fulmer because of what Doc just said. You get the best assets for a guy like Michael Fulmer. But you already have JD Martinez who can get you that similar haul as Michael Fulmer. So you forget about Fulmer, you deal JD, and I think they still end up dealing him. And I think just as close as they possibly can get to that non-waiver trade deadline on July 31st, Dom.
Yeah, I see where it's possible for them to trade Fulmer, but they're going to wait. I think it's like Doc said, it's gamesmanship. They're going to wait. You're probably going to get the most from Fulmer, but with that being said, is you still have to win that deal. So you gotta. If you're gonna make a trade for Fulmer, you got to get guys back that are going to make even, if not more of an impact, at least the same impact that he made right now, because that's still going to be on the line of regression.
And see, here's another reason.
Fulmer.
Yeah, here's another reason why people are nervous, like myself. Look what happens Monday. JD's dealing. He's playing well. He's had a couple home runs. He was the American League Player of the Week.
Yep.
Comes out of the game early with some back pain. And you're like, oh boy. Anibal Sanchez, prior to his last performance versus Toronto, was pitching well. Comes out versus Toronto, boom, lowers his trade value, if it at all was possible, by giving up an additional 3 home runs and getting shelled. So he didn't take the loss, which was lucky because the Tigers have been playing well post the meeting. And I'm curious to get your guys' reaction to the meeting, and we'll probably do that in the second half. But I think people are on pins and needles because we're all nervous that we have assets, but maybe a Fulmer could blow out his arm before we maximize value. Maybe a guy like JD Martinez gets hurt. Maybe a guy like Ian Kinsler on the north side of 30 years old, maybe he's running to a base, pulls a hamstring. So maybe Alex Avila in the next 4 or 5 games bats 1 for 25. You see what I'm saying? Many people are thinking, you know what? The week that was prior to the All-Star game was the prime week to start shipping people out because people were playing well. JD was crushing the baseball. You had a lot of good things going. Michael Fulmer was dealing. The sheer number of quality starts that he's had has been unbelievable. So you look at it and you go, oh boy, fans are nervous because we don't want something bad to happen when we're waiting for all these trades. That's why I think everyone's a little bit nervous.
You can't worry about Fulmer really quick, Dom, with that because he's not an expiring contract. The expiring contract guys like JD, you have to worry about that fact. Lower back tightness, he left the game with on Monday. We thought it was a trade, didn't happen. Now it's that. That's a concern because he's already missed time this season too. So I think for JD's sake, you might want to deal him before that non-waiver trade deadline on July 31 because of that factor. Michael Fulmer, I don't think it's as worrisome of a concern, Dom.
Yeah, and back to Fulmer, and if you trade Fulmer, you're thinking that your prospects already in your system, your pitching prospects, are going to be your starters going forward. That's a guy like Funkhauser. That's a guy like Spencer Turnbull. That might be a guy like Bo Burrows. And that might be a guy like Matt Manning, who you think is going to be at least as good as Fulmer. And that would start and maybe be in the front line with Norris. You already have to think that. I don't think the Tigers think that, and that's why I don't think they'll trade him.
And I've looked at stats for Matt Manning so far this year, and even Burrows. I mean, they're not like outstanding numbers, by the way, for
Burrows
those guys.
is pitching well this year.
Any concerns? I think I read a report that one of the things that people are looking at is Matt Manning's velocity has been down this year. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
he's
people
done.
are a little bit nervous, like,
Because he's young and he's dealing with that. But then you can look at it this way. You know what? A guy like that who is so young can still regain it. Guys regain it. It's something how major league pitchers, man, they go from year to year with different velocities. It is just so odd how that is
they said
a factor.
He needs to
It's
add,
true.
They said he needs to add to his frame.
Uh-huh.
And he came out from high school.
Yeah, he's
They
young,
said-
right? He
yeah,
can
they
add
said
to
they
his
can add to his
frame.
ball. Yeah,
Yep.
and add velocity. I think that's more the issue. He might have dead arm too. I heard about dead arm having that going for him. He had never experienced dead arm before, so.
Really quick about JD Martinez to conclude our conversation about him for the time being. Do you think the fact that he is an expiring contract hurts his trade value a lot or just a little bit, Dom?
I think it hurts a lot because the teams that would ask for a rental are set where in the outfield. They might just ask. They're not. The Diamondbacks really aren't, but they have David Peralta already. So yeah, I think it hurts him because there's a pretty good chance that the team that gets him is not going to be able to re-sign him in the offseason.
Now, guys, I want to tease this as well. A Major League Baseball pundit, a famous Major League Baseball analyst, has come out and said maybe there's a potential to move another Tiger, and we'll talk about that after this quick timeout.
Doc, I don't know if Dom knows about this yet, but let's inform him of the fact that the Detroit Sports Commission is now a sponsor. Dom, how about it? Pretty good sponsor to have. The title sponsor of my charity softball game on Saturday, August 12th in Dearborn. Anyways, regarding the Detroit Sports Commission, since 2001, the Detroit Sports Commission has applied its expert touch to marketing and to selling the Metro Detroit area as a marquee destination for regional, national, and even international amateur sporting events. And through the Detroit Sports Commission's help, these events have attracted thousands of visitors and pumped millions of dollars into our local economy. It is why Detroit is now not only the place where champions are made, but also the place where championships are played. To find out more about the Detroit Sports Commission and all of the events they are bringing to our very region, please follow the DSC on Twitter and on Instagram at DET Sports, and make sure to check out their fine website at detroitsports.org. And back here on episode number 99 of the podcast, almost in triple digits, episode number 100 next week. Should be a fun one. Maybe Tony Paul, a guy like that, somebody else, or 2 or 3 others will be on, and I am looking forward to it heavily. Now, Doc, before our very commercial break, you had mentioned a baseball pundit had speculated something. Now, what was that about, Doc, exactly?
Now, I'm curious after I play this clip to get your impressions of Alex Rodriguez, but he went on, Fox Sports and kind of talked about some observations that he's made, and many average fans would probably make the same kind of observation based upon some relationships that have been formed. So I'll play this clip, and I'll get your reaction to what he said as well as to what you've seen in terms of the early career of Alex Rodriguez as an analyst.
Yeah, Kevin, and I agree with AJ. You can't replace Big Papi. I know they're in first place and they're doing very well. Until October, he got in 03. They won 3 championships. I've been watching Dave Dombrowski since 1993 when he took over the Marlins GM job. Brought the championship to Miami in 1997. I would not be surprised. Now, there's just me. I'm not Ken Rosenthal here, okay? Nobody is. But I would not be surprised to see Dave Dombrowski pull off a blockbuster and getting Miguel Cabrera to the Red Sox.
What?
And let me tell you why, Frank.
I like it.
6 years, $184 million owed to him, no trade clause. And they have the prospects in Boston and the resources with John Henry to make this deal happen.
Wow. I like it.
That's a biggie.
That is a huge acquisition for the Boston Red Sox. They could afford that. That's a good one, A-Rod.
Now, it made news. People were like, whoa. Now, it doesn't take rocket science to realize, okay, Dave Dombrowski, former general manager of the Tigers, Alex Avila and him have a relationship. But what was your reaction when you heard that, thinking that Alex Rodriguez, maybe not with sourced information, but kind of speculating that maybe Alex Avila will pick up the phone, make a phone call, and dial up Dave Dombrowski to potentially trade Hall of Famer Miguel Cabrera?
I'll just say this. We could have all speculated that because of the connection of Dave D to Miguel Cabrera with the Tigers. and with the Marlins. I mean, I know all about that. That's all good to say, but guess what? The realistic thing to say regarding all this is that it's not going to happen. And there are $30 million reasons, right? 30 million reasons.
Adios!
In terms of what Miguel Cabrera will be making at least until 2023 in a Tigers uniform, 32 towards the end, at the back end of his contract. It's an albatross of a contract towards the end. Backloaded contract. The Red Sox, even with their big payroll and means to afford a guy like that, they're not going to take him on.
It would be another Sandoval experiment.
And guess what? They need a third baseman because Sandoval's out of there. Cabrera can't play third base. If he used to, like when he used to be able to, when he was more fleet of foot, if he could still play third, different story here. They might just take it on because Dave D, he doesn't care. He'll go with the prospects too. But now, because they don't need a first baseman and they don't need a DH, they have Mitch Moreland at first and Hanram DH first base. They don't need Miguel Cabrera. He's not a fit at this point.
So many people are wondering, like, okay, Miguel Cabrera, as well as a guy that is a Hall of Famer, is a bat, but his numbers again this year are steadily declining.
Yep.
And people are wondering, what are we going to get out of him for the next 6 years? But that's a lot of money he's owed. $184 million for the next 6 years. He's still going to be here. But I think that JV and Miguel Cabrera are not really pieces that are really going to fit in terms of trying to make a move. I think a lot of people are speculating and thinking that if the Tigers are going to consider even trading Justin Verlander or Miguel Cabrera, they got to pay a lot of that salary. It might even be 50% or more of the $184 million to get a team to even consider trading some pieces. And the funny part for getting a guy like Miguel Cabrera is Boston, though, it might be advantageous for them to make a run. They're sitting atop the AL East. They got a good team. They have a small window because the way you look at it, and I can understand how Dave Dombrowski thinks, you look at it and you go, okay, if I win one world championship and I mortgage the next 5 years, it's still well worth it because he doesn't have a World Series with the Red Sox. But do I think that they can go out and get a better option of Miguel Cabrera? No doubt about it. And that team is still pretty stacked as it is with the pitching, the solid bullpen, the flamethrowers that they got, coming out there trying to get outs. So I like that Boston team, but I don't think that, an option is realistic to go out and get Miguel Cabrera.
Really quick, though, regarding JV and Miguel Cabrera and their, semi-albatross of contracts, which Cabrera's definitely is. Verlander, I'm going to say right now, isn't really that bad because it's only until 2019. We only have 2 more years of him in a Tigers uniform. So remember that, too, with Verlander. And I think it's actually feasible where you can trade him if you take on some of his salary, where Cabrera isn't. But he can fit into that DH role eventually once VMart is gone, remember, too. Dom?
Yeah, what I was going to say, I don't see the sense of urgency for the Red Sox. And we've seen in the playoffs before, teams really, they're not really, they need maybe another power source. But in the playoffs, teams that win are teams that put the ball in play. And the Red Sox are top 6 in average. So, they have guys that can hit all over the place. Maybe not guys that can hit home runs. Mitch Moreland might give you a home run. Hanray might give you a home run. But I think falling in love with the power guy has shown to be fool's gold for the most part, especially teams if we look at teams that won the World Series, the Giants, the Royals, last year even the Cubs. Chris Bryant had a great year, and Rizzo and Bryant were great home run guys, but the Indians, they didn't have great guy. Napoli was their home run hitter last year. So yeah, I think it's fool's gold to think of a power source when really all that matters is if you can put the ball in play.
And many people are going to be like, look, Al might call up and be like, look, we want Andrew Benintendi. And the Boston will be like,
We'll just laugh and hang up the phone right away.
No. Nobody on the active roster. We're going to look to the minors and start peeling off there. So, obviously the best part would be if they traded Miguel Cabrera for Rick Porcello.
And you wouldn't get a good enough return really for Miguel at this point because of Miguel's stage that he's in his career, where his OPS is below 800. Yes. He's got 12 home runs through 78 games. So if my math is right, if he plays 78 more games the rest of the way this season, that'll equate to 24 bombs for Miguel Cabrera. How big of an offensive and power upgrade is that for the Red Sox, who need the power upgrade, but it's not in the form of Miguel Cabrera at this point? It's not. He's not the guy to get, and really there's no position for him. Where once again, let's be optimistic here regarding the Tigers and their standpoint with him and what they have to deal with going forward. He can slide into that DH role very easily. Just hopefully he's more productive than he's been this season. But guess what, too, regarding this season? They're not going to win. They're not trying to win. So what does it matter what Miguel Cabrera really does? Does it really matter what he does this season when you're not trying to win? It matters maybe come 2019 when they're back in contention, which you could be. So remember, Tigers fans, relax. Okay, like Aaron Rodgers has said, too. You could be a winner again or be relevant at least again in 2019, let's say.
And
Dom?
another thing, too, about the Cabrera and Verlander dynamic, you're going to see possibly them being placed on waivers. The thing with Verlander, I think Verlander probably, the chances of him getting traded would go up if he was pitching well. If he was
Absolutely,
pitching like he
last
was
year. So let me ask you about that.
So
if
I
he was
think,
pitching like last year.
and I think even if go ahead.
If he was pitching like last year, what would his trade value be right now?
It would be up. You might be able to get you might be able to get someone in the top 100. You might be able to get someone in the top 100. And then think of this. So they're going to have time to trade these guys and take off pay for some of the salary. Going into for the waivers, the Tigers can put him on waivers. If he's pitching great, Verlander, some team obviously will clear waivers. You can work out a trade there. You might not be able to get. You're probably going to be able to get more than you would now, and that's why I think the Tigers should hold on and make it a wait and see approach.
And really quick regarding Miguel Cabrera playing 78 more games, they've played the Tigers. Let me do my math here. That's why I wasn't responding to you, Dom. They've played 91 games, so that's not feasible, huh? 78 more games. There isn't 78 more games in the season, so that won't happen. So that tells you right there. So you got 12 home runs out of him once again. He's not going to he might get to 20, right? He might get, that's how bad he's been realistically, power productivity. So it's not a solution. And now back to what you said, Verlander, a team might actually go after him. And if he was pitching like he was last year, totally different conversation that we'd be having right now. Because outside of Quintana, who do we trust that's on the open market available among starting pitchers? Sonny Gray's the next best thing. Verlander is sky high above Sonny Gray. Maybe not sky high above Quintana, but definitely above Sonny Gray.
Especially when you look at postseason experience.
Yes, and he has that above Quintana too. So I really think Verlander would be a very sexy commodity if he was still pitching well.
In August, non-revocable trade waivers, they're going to put him on the waivers.
And you know what? Teams would be willing to pay some of that or be willing to take on that salary because he only has 2 more years, remember. It's not that big of a contract albatross.
And if not, like I said, wait and see approach. You wait till the offseason.
Well, yeah, maybe you get more for him then. We'll see.
So
Doc?
I'm curious, what do you guys think of Alex Rodriguez as a Major League Baseball analyst? Many people are ranting and raving saying, wow, we didn't think this guy would have the chops so quickly. He's got a strong presence. He seems to be a natural in front of the camera. And although he hasn't broken a whole ton of news, he's an analyst that people want to talk to, and he's got a good stage presence. So it's kind of interesting to see the up-and-coming career of a former player that many people thought wasn't that popular and alleged that he was a cheater.
Well, the thing is, he's really resurrecting his status as a guy that has some baseball acumen, is an aficionado, and he's shown that through his analysis so far for FS1 in their studio, now doing some game analysis. Good Morning America, by the way, just picked him up as a contributor to do finance reports or something like that. Alex Rodriguez is now this stud expert on so many topics. I mean, look at him and what he's doing. And I wanted, regarding him, it's good you brought that up because I had another topic really quick. The All-Star game, seeing what he was doing. I don't know if you saw it. He went on the field, interviewed some players. Gimmicky, got made fun of by my good buddy Nick Schmiegel. He thought it was a few choice words that we're not going to talk about here. And I think some other people thought it was extremely gimmicky and too gimmicky with that being said. And what did you think about it, guys? And Dom, you can go first.
Yeah, I was going about A-Rod. I like him. I like the whole dynamic at Fox Sports 1. You had Pete Rose, him and Frank Thomas. And he brings an insight that because he's played the game, he would be a Hall of Famer, surefire Hall of Famer if it wasn't for the PEDs. He brings that to the game. He's talking, even when he's in his interviews, you can tell he has a good rapport with guys he's never even played with because he knows so much about the game. He knows so much about the position, shortstop and third base. He was talking to Zach Cozart. He played that position. Another thing, too, he's great around the community. He went to the University of Miami. And then when you've heard stuff about guys that have gone to Miami that are in the bigs now, like Yonder Alonso, he was saying that people just looked up.
They bow down to him, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They revered him there when he went there. He's done, like I said, for the community, kids there in Miami, getting them a chance to play. He's really, like you said, he's really trying to change his image to shed it in a more positive light.
Is this a way for him to get into the Hall one day, too? I wonder by doing all this crap. I don't know, because Pete Rose isn't going to get in. He's now on FS1. Frank Thomas, a legit Hall of Famer. They have him, A-Royd, as I like to call him still, and Pete Rose in studio sometimes all together. They all worked the World Series last year along with Kevin Burkhardt. It was kind of fascinating to hear some of their discussions. And actually, I know one of the videos that they did together talking about simply hitting went viral. Got a lot of hits, FS1. proclaimed it as, well, it just is one of the best, I think, videos they've ever done because of how many hits they got, actually, and attention they got from it, too.
I was gonna real quick. What bugs me about A-Rod is, everyone talks about this work ethic that he has. He'd be in the, in high school, he'd be in the field. The lights would shut off, and he'd still be in there. He was already great. It goes without saying, but I mean, to me, it's never gonna change. Taking PEDs, it's forever tarnished his legacy.
It has, Doc.
Dom, no forgiveness out of you? Oh, wow. Harsh critic. I can understand, though. I'm just looking at him as a Major League Baseball analyst, and I give him credit because it's not an easy transition. There have been guys that have tried it that haven't done a good job, so I give him credit. I do think, though, the Miguel Cabrera to the Boston Red Sox take is a little bit weak, but I do agree, though, that he has room to grow. If this is what you're getting out of him so far in year one, he's got room to grow, and we always can debate whether or not you would take PEDs when the numbers of the contracts were coming out. You know what I mean? When you get 10 years, $250 million, it's really hard to say, let's keep everything on the up and up. Because if I dangled $250 million in front of you boys, you might be willing to do some nefarious things too if you maybe thought you wouldn't get caught.
See, I'm an ethical man, Doc, all the time, okay? I know Dominic.
You can't be serious.
Dominic always is, too.
You would turn down $250 million if the only thing you had to do was maybe shoot something in your ass.
Well, you know what? He had 250 million reasons, right, to take PEDs, and it helped him out. But then there's a discussion about these guys such as A-Rod, that, well, you know what? They didn't need the roids to be good and great all-star caliber players year in, year out. A guy that now is Hall of Fame caliber and would be a Hall of Famer if it wasn't for the roids and all of his connections to the roids.
And the thing is, steroids aren't going to help you. They might give you a couple more feet on your home runs, but you're still going to hit a home run.
Right.
So
it helps with recovery in terms of
recovery time. I think it's about that for those guys more than anything, like McGuire, a guy like that. But there's so many guys that have taken the roids now that were good anyways, and it's about the hand-eye coordination. Like for Dom and I and you, Doc, especially you, Doc. I'm joking, but we don't have the hand-eye coordination, right, to hit a fastball, a 90 mile per hour, 95, 100 mile per hour fastball. We don't have that ability with our hand-eye coordination to do
steroids in
it.
and of themselves aren't going to help you.
No, if you're good, you're good. You have that natural talent. Like A-Rod, you can't teach some of that talent that he had, that natural talent.
That's what bugs people with A-Rod, guys like that.
And that's why there is a discussion for like Barry Bonds now more and more that maybe he should get into the Hall of Fame because he was so darn good without the roids. But he hurt himself with the media crap. Right. He was never good with the media, where A-Rod now is a media member and he's shining. Everybody loves him now all of a sudden. All the media is forgiving him. Or it seems like more and more are forgiving him too, Doc.
No doubt about it. So I'm interested to see how his career will take off and where he progresses from here. Now, switching gears and getting back to the Tigers a little bit. 3-game winning streak since the infamous meeting, one that could go down as one of the great all-time comebacks from the Detroit Tigers. Many people are like, when Avila spoke on Major League Baseball Network and was saying, look, there may be a small chance we don't make any moves. We might stay on pat. And I think Twitter blew up. Our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast blew up a little bit with people going, no, you better at least trade JD Martinez. But many people are wondering, like, okay, maybe this is now the time where the Tigers have said, okay, this is it. You're playing garbage opponents. You're not playing the cream of the crop right now in your division. You're playing Kansas City. You're putting the hurt on them, and you've played 3 solid baseball games. The offense has turned around. Do you take stock in this whole, the Detroit Tigers had a team meeting, and now they're playing well?
Well, no, you beat up Vargas, who was due for a downturn this season on Monday night. You beat up some Jays pitchers, Liriano, who else am I missing? Estrada.
Marco Estrada,
just aren't good starting pitchers right now. So I don't take a lot of stock in it because you should be beating those pitchers. And guess what? If the Tigers would have done that earlier in the season against the pitchers that they should have been beating up on, such as Brad Peacock, who my brother and my dad just harp on me about, well, the Tigers should have beaten that guy. A good relief pitcher, but not a good starting pitcher. Well, okay, if the Tigers would have, they'd be in contention right now probably. Because there's a lot of guys they haven't beaten that they should have.
The Tigers should be thankful because I went down there for Saturday's game. My goodness, they were averaging about 38 to 40,000.
Yep.
15 to 16,000 fans from Toronto.
Yeah.
That's what helped
America
out.
Park.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. What a great vibe. And just real quickly, I watched the game Saturday, but not from my seats. I went to the Amsterdam bar and had a great time. I had more fun watching a game with a cocktail in my hand, kind of walking around with the crowd and stuff like that than I ever have just sitting in a seat watching a baseball game. And of course, it was a great game where Castellanos hit a home run, JD hit a bomb, Miguel Cabrera hit a bomb. So the 2 contests that I've seen, the Tigers have scored over 10 runs each, and they beat Tampa Bay and destroyed them, and they beat Toronto. So, but in terms of entertaining value, the addition of the Pepsi Porch and the Amsterdam Bar out there by right field was pretty spectacular. I highly recommend it. You go up there, get a ticket, get a cheap ticket, and hang out at the bar there. Lot of young ladies for you, Vito.
To check out, I know.
If you want to kind of make your way through the audience and say, "Oh, this is where the this is where all the young, good-looking people hang out that I hear about that go to Comerica." So I had a great time on Saturday, but didn't get a chance to sit in my seat and watch a whole heck of a lot. But hey, if a team meeting is all it took to turn it around for the Detroit Tigers, hell, we'll go with it, right? 3-0.
Did you get all liquored up, or as I like to say, lit like a Christmas tree at that new Amsterdam bar?
It was my wife's works outing, so I couldn't do that. I asked Adam, so what's the rule here? Everybody else, there's 5 busloads here of alcohol. He's like, you can have fun, but you can't be the most wild because you can't embarrass the missus. So I just had one guy that was a friend of my mother-in-law bought us around. So I had one Coors Light, and then I returned the favor and bought him one. So Coors Light at the ballpark, I had 2 of them spread out over 4 hours. I was in good shape.
Nice guy, and that's Dominic's drink of
Coors
choice, by the
Light,
way,
yeah.
as well, Coors Light.
My man
Light.
Dom, good stuff.
Yeah.
Mine is Corona Light.
It's good.
Extra too, with the lime in it.
Of course, you know what happened. I at first wanted a Corona because it was hot, it was nice.
Yeah.
And the girl gets it, opens it, and goes, "I'm sorry, sir. We're out of limes." I said, "Send it back. I don't want that."
It's out of lime,
if you don't
Just
have
send
a
it
lime,
back. You said that really. Just send it back.
Send it back. You have to. The rule of thumb is if you don't give a Corona with a lime, you have to expect that people will give it back because that's why people buy it.
This weekend.
Well, Dominic, we'll talk about it more on Too Bad Hombres too this week. But Dom is mentioning how I didn't have limes prepared to give out to the guests of mine with their Coronas. I didn't come through and deliver with the limes.
Damn you!
I failed, and damn me. I'll take the criticism, rightfully so.
Go away, damn you!
I can't believe Vito serves Coronas without limes. That's like life 101, dude. Did you invite ladies too? Were the girls there?
No, ladies.
Ah,
Nick
okay.
Schmiegel. It's always Nick Schmiegel. He's always there, sent out some way. And Dominic came out. We'll talk about it more on Too Bad Hombres this week too, Doc.
No doubt about it. So what do you think about this whole team meeting? You think that it was a spark or, like I was telling Jason, just kind of a look? That effort on Friday was god-awful. Don't ever come out here and play like that again, no matter what. With all the trade rumors swirling, with whatever's going on, the message was similar to look, listen, the outside world's going to have a bunch of noise. All we can do here in this locker room is play for each other. And when we go out there, no matter what, win or loss, it doesn't matter. All I ask you is that you go out there and give 100% effort. And that performance on Friday was awful. Don't ever do that again to your paying customers. That's what was said. It wasn't like a big rah-rah thing, but I do believe that, some things were said. And one of them was you cannot come out after the All-Star break and play baseball like you did Friday. It was a collection of errors. It was such an embarrassing display in front of your fans. And you can't play like that. And it's nice to see that it might have been a perfectly timed meeting for the Detroit Tigers.
Not perfectly timed at all. Why don't we see that meeting earlier in the season when the season still mattered? Still had some, credibility to a chance for the Tigers to win, be a winning team, and make the playoffs. Now there's no shot at all, and you have that team meeting way too late in the season. And I think it was more of a meeting where Avila came in, or Osmus, or both of them, and they talked about that there are trade rumors floating around, and guys will be dealt as a trade deadline nears. I think it's more about that, trades that will be made and making the guys well aware of it, because I think it's a bad thing to kind of blindside your players right with the trade. That's not right to the players, so you let them know because all the rumors have been circulating. So I think Avila did that, accomplished that, and I think that is what should have been done in that team meeting too. So I don't think it was a rah-rah meeting so much as it was a meeting to talk to the players about trades going to be happening very soon.
I also think it did light a fire in some of them too.
Maybe because they know the trades are going to
last night.
happen.
They stepped out right out of the gate. Zimmerman pitched great. Like I said, they stepped right out of the gate. Their offense was on fire. Obviously, it's unfortunate what happened to JD, but I think it did light a fire into them.
And really quick, the Royals series, a 4-game set at Kauffman Stadium in KC. They won Game 1, blew the Royals out, killed Jason Vargas, who had been the Royals' best starting pitcher and an American League All-Star this season out of nowhere. Had the fourth best earned run average in all of baseball coming into Monday night's game. I don't think he'll keep it up in the second half. I think he showed that in Game 1 Monday night. Now, the rest of the series, you have
Tuesday,
Danny
you
Duffy.
got Boyd.
You got
Tuesday,
Boyd.
Yep.
Now, the last time he pitched in the majors was against the Royals. May 31st, got rocked in 3 2/3.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Will he rebound Tuesday night, and what do the Tigers do the rest of the series against a team that will be throwing out Danny Duffy on Thursday, too? Dom, what do you think?
So I think they're going to split. I think they're going to win the Fulmer start against Duffy. I think they're going to beat Hamill tomorrow or Wednesday. And I think it'll be a split 2 of 4. So
I got him winning 3. I think that Boyd's going to come back and want to prove that he belongs on this roster. I think that one thing you can't discount is Al Willman, previous guest on the Tigers Talk podcast, brought it up and made a great point. The biggest turnaround this team can make is offense. If they can consistently smash the baseball, hit home runs, and drive guys in, if you get contributions from Castellanos, you get contributions from Mikey Matuk, then you got a situation where you can do some things. This is a team maybe that if they were to add one piece, maybe just add one more bat for this year, and maybe you can make a quick run. The odds are low, and that's just the fan in me talking, but the biggest improvement this team can make is continue to bash the baseball because it's nice to see some offense. So I got them winning 3 of 4, and I don't believe, though, that whatever winning streak comes about or however many games the Tigers win before July 31st, it's pretty obvious it's time to sell.
Really quick, what do the Royals have in common with the Tigers? What do you think I'm going to say here?
Shedding payroll.
They have to sell. They have to sell. And you know what's funny? Castellanos has been hitting better. As soon as the Tigers kind of became an irrelevant ball club, Castellanos has picked it up. He's done that before. Can he do it when they're a contending ball club? That's my concern about him. Mikey Matuk went deep Monday night, had a 2-run jack. How about Ian Kinsler, who maybe has to be my toast of the town based on Monday night's performance? 2 triples in a game and a double. Almost hit for the cycle. Like one of 13 players in Tigers history to do that, to record 2 triples and then at least 1 double. A heck of a performance for him. And hopefully that increases his trade value, at least a little bit, Doc.
Toast of the town for me, JD Martinez, AL Player of the Week, crushing the baseball, really helping the Tigers stay in contention for whatever they're going to try to achieve in 2017.
I think my buster of the week has to be Anibal Sanchez getting rocked. I think that has to be my buster of the week, Dom. What do you think about those 2 selections of Doc and I? For Toast of the Town, so the best Tiger of the week, and then buster of the week, the worst Tiger of the week.
Okay, so I agree with who said JD?
DOC, baby.
JD is definitely my toast. Obviously, Sanchez's last start, but before that, Sanchez was great. I don't know if you can say, there's not enough where you can say he's the bust of the week yet.
Buster of the week, Dom.
Buster of the week, excuse me. Yeah, another thing, and I don't really take part in this, but maybe toast of the year candidate, if you guys do that.
We will.
Alex Avila.
No doubt about it.
He's playing out of his mind. Like who mentioned it about his WAR? He's worth about $15 million this season.
Yes.
He's got 2 awards. One WAR is about $7-8 million.
Yeah.
He's close to. He's better than. He's one of the best. He should have been in the All-Star game.
Really quick, bold prediction, Dom. Will Alex Avila be a Tiger by the end of the season?
No.
Okay.
Better not be.
Better not be, and I don't think so either. And that has been all she wrote for episode number 99 of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. Thank you, Dom. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you so much for listening to all the podcasts on our network. You can download this podcast and every single podcast 24/7 on demand at our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com.